seriously, thanks everyone for all of you speakers who actually uploaded with the slides. Thank you so much for everyone for joining. And I'm hoping that we actually get some really wonderful outcomes, apart from just having fun today. Okay, great. So, there are a few people that weren't doing the introductions. I just want to make sure that if you weren't here during the intros earlier, maybe just say your work, like your name, your affiliation, and a keyword about your work. Then we have everyone covered. Okay, Dane.
I'm Dane Goel. I'm with the Visual Foundation. We do biomarkers, open innovation, we do biology stuff.
Cool. Who else do we have? Sonia.
Sonia Urson, 100 Plus Capital. I'm on the board of the Foresight Institute, the Alliance for Longevity Initiatives, and a bunch of other stuff. But I spend most of my time investing in longevity companies.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yes.
Hey, I'm Rico. I'm a Foresight Fellow, and I'm also with Retro Biosciences. Please talk to me about single cell and blood rejuvenation. Please go.
Wonderful. Carl.
I'm Carl Flegger. I run nanotechnology, a public website to track the progress of the field, and I invest in startups.
Wonderful. Yes, Ravi.
I'm Robbie Pundy. I work at Altus Labs, interested in talking about AI, machine learning, and cellular programming.
Okay. Anyone else we're missing? Greg, we will put you on the spot. Say your name, your affiliation, and a keyword, what you're really excited about.
Greg Fay, Thymus, and I'm excited about clinical aging intervention. And also all the theoretical work that's underlying it. But the fact that we're actually able to do something to real people in real time is what excites me.
Thank you. Okay, wonderful. We'll be doing this as more people stream in and as new people. Oh, Madi.
Madi Mokri, working with Stanford and Harvard, and my work is on biomarkers of aging for longevity. I also stole Micah Snyder and Vittorio Sebastiano from their introduction.
Oh, please give your intros too, if you so wish.
Vittorio Sebastiano, Stanford University, and certain biotechnologies.
Cool. Who are we missing? All right. Wonderful. Well, as new people stream in, we'll make sure that we get them covered, but hopefully you also fill out the spreadsheet. That would be wonderful. Okay, great. So I will tell you a little bit about what it is that Foresight does, then I'll walk you through what it is that we're going to do today, and then we're going to right away start into the lightning talks, because I think that's ultimately what you all came here for. Okay, wonderful. So Foresight, we are really one of the kind of like most, like one of the earliest long-term facing science and technology organizations. And we were founded in 1986. And whenever I go back into our archives, people were so optimistic about the long-term future. Back then, you know, longevity was already a big deal for many people at Foresighters. And so it's just really exciting that now we actually have finally like some real progress to like, you know, the big goals that people are really excited about. We don't just do longevity. We have a few focus areas. One is intelligent corporation, so that's decentralized computing, cryptographic approaches to machine learning, and so forth. One is molecular machines, that's our founding vision on molecular nanotechnology. One is neurotech, all the way from existing BCIs to like long-term brain-computer interfaces and whole brain emulations. Then we have longevity biotech, that is the cohort in which you're all here. And we have a space group as well. So everything that you'll be going through here is also existing for all the other areas. And I think we really have this kind of like idea that we're trying to do like support those folks that are like often too early stage, too fringe, too ambitious for like legacy institutions to like take them on. We try to like see if there's a there, try to really support them and then potentially hand them off to like later on funders, mentors, and so forth. And so the way that we do this is through virtual seminars. So for example, we have them in each of our categories. Who here is joining the biotech and longevity seminars on a fairly regular basis? Great, okay, then you know what it is. It's our virtual collaboration layer. It's a group of 400 people that were all either invited or have been nominated or applied to join the group, and they are meeting for relatively consistent discussions just about how to move that field forward. So it's like a virtual layer where other people that are not in the Bay can also plug in and collaborate on progress. We also have the Foresight Fellowship. Can I see a hand up who's been a fellow alumni? Thanks all for joining. I think you really make our world go round. And that's, I think, really our heart and blood at Foresight. So most of what we try to do is really help support our fellows and help them support each other. And so we have a wonderful fellowship here, and we now started a new program called Prodigy Fellows, which is because we received so many wonderful applications from people that were minors. And we didn't know that because we blind applications through screening. And so we have a new fellowship cohort now from very, very young folks as well. But I really encourage you to check out our fellows, check out the wonderful work that they're doing. We have plenty of them in all of our different categories, and they're really absolutely incredible. So thanks a lot for being our fellows. We also have a prize. Prizes in most of these areas. Here is one on longevity in particular. And I want to first and foremost thank you to all the judges. Who here has been a judge in the longevity prize? If you've been on the judging committee, please raise your hand. Thank you so much for the fantastic work that you've been putting in really evaluating the first prize. We are very excited to have announced it last week, and we actually have the prize winner here today to give a presentation on this project. So really excited about that. This prize was launched by VitaDAO after they got funding through a Gitcoin grant round, and then Dane from Methuselah, a few folks at Lifespan, and we were collaborating on bringing it together, and we gave the first prize out now, but we have plenty of them coming, so will be a lot more on the prizes as well. Cool. Then finally, while we're all here, we have our events. And you're here at the Longevity Frontiers workshop, and this is really like a space for us to think a little bit more long-term about what can be happening in the space of longevity. And we've been doing these events for, our workshops probably since 20 years or something, specifically longevity focus, I think since about 10. And previously, if you want to get up to speed on previous workshops and what was discussed there, we have reports, report outs and so forth for all of them here. And last year's workshop, who was here at last year's workshop? A few of you as well. It was also focused on a similar problem of catalyzing new challenges in longevity and how we can make progress on that. And now we actually have a bunch of people here that are working in areas that were pointed out at last year's workshop as really important, for example, ECM and so forth. So we'll be hearing a little bit more about that as well. So we're trying to have some continuity between events where at each annual workshop, you can either continue working on an area that we previously thought was important, and you can give us new proposals for new frontiers, and we're trying to get some initial work done on them. Great. I also want to ask Aaron up to stage now, because another project that we've been doing in the back end is mapping, the work that you're all doing. Aaron, if you're here, please come up front. And this has been the tech trees. So basically, I think as you can see, there's been so much progress and work happening, even within our small ecosystem, that it's really difficult to be up to date and keep up to speed with all the work that's happening. I get lots of emails, individual emails of people asking me how they can plug in and help. Sometimes it's funders, sometimes it's new folks that are trying to move in, and I'm not the person to tell them. So we thought, well, why don't we start by really mapping the space of longevity, and we have the same trees for the other areas as well. We're happy to talk about this more, but Aaron is going to give you a brief update on where we are standing with the tree.
Sure. All right. So just a short update for the longevity tech tree that was spearheaded by Foresight. All right. So I was going to go over the actual tree, show it. Do we have time to do that, or? I can do it later. You can do it later. All right. We'll be fine. So the tree in general it's got a lot of information. Aesthetically, it could look better, but the information is very good. However, there's only one section of the tree that's actually built out to what I was hoping the whole tree was going to be built out to, and that's the ECM portion. So the ECM has, in terms of content, what I think every single tree needs to have, which is all the nodes were curated by people in the field, very world experts in my opinion, who have spent their lives thinking about this kind of stuff. And then they kind of looked at the setup and they said, hey, here's what it needs to look like. And that's kind of what I was going for. I was hoping that people in the field to be like, oh no, here's what you need to do in order to draw it correctly. And then we would just reformat it. So it was curated by Colin Ewald, Cecilia Park, Victor Bjork, Alexander Fedintsev, and Brad English. It's currently in a paper that's being submitted. The diagram from the tech tree is pretty much, it was cleaned up, but it's used in an actual scientific paper. And then each section has this long cited explanation behind it, and represents a kind of a coherent game plan for solving the ECM problem as far as aging is concerned. So this is what the diagram looks like from the paper. And the information is the same, but it's obviously, it looks a little bit nicer than the tech tree. So I don't know if it's like frustrating or if it's a sense of accomplishment that one section has been done to what I think is like the level that should be happening, because I think it's actually pretty interesting that a paper is merged from this and that there's some activity that's occurring. So that's really good. On the other hand, there's a lot of sections in this tech tree that could get up to that level. So, and if the entire thing was at that level, we would have like a really good body of information of like what's happening in the field and where are things going and what the problem areas actually are in terms of the science anyway. So as this slide says, we'd like to have the field experts defining the connections and nodes, and then we just do the grunt work of displaying them and hooking the logic together between different fields. The rest of the tree could look like this. It can be done. It just depends on the willingness to do so. So we'll see whether there's still interest and to what extent the interest is there. I guess that's the synopsis.
Thanks, Eric.
Time for a question.
Sure, we have time for questions.
So in filling out the detailed ECM section,
Yeah.
did the group encounter any disagreements which had to be hashed out in what should get said about any subtopic?
Not really. I didn't see it, so we just, Colin can.
The question. I mean, we wrote this up and we submitted it, so it was peer reviewed by other experts in the field. And of course, they were asking, why is that protein not in there and why this one is? And so we just gave logical explanation saying, there should be some evidence that's involved in aging, can drive aging, if you manipulate like the hallmarks of aging, right? So you could sufficient to increase lifespan or decrease lifespan. And we were going to resubmit this. Of course, there was back and forth. Not everything is included. And we ended up being by 20,000 words. So luckily, I'm able to publish this because it's a huge manuscript. But it's going to be everything in there, so you can actually jump to the section you're interested in and get all the detailed information and go back and forth.
And then Leon. And
Last one.
Well, so can you briefly tell us why should we be excited about feeding this information into this format?
Yeah, okay, well, maybe let me, so first of all, I think that many folks who've actually contacted me and who have afterwards pointed out to the tech tree, they have found projects much, much easier that they then afterwards want to collaborate with. It's basically just a better API than just a list of individual companies, in an area, or it's a different walk through that tree. It's a little bit more, I guess, intuitive rather than a long research paper that tells you about what longevity is. So the idea is that it's really relatively compressed. You could just very roughly see what's happening in the space and where you want to plug in. And now we actually have a new feature for the longevity tree, and that is from Lateral. And so Lateral is a tool that actually allows you to do a natural language walkthrough of the tree. And so you can ask any questions. For example, you can start with, what are the main sense areas for addressing damage? And then it spits you out the main sense areas. It's AI auto-generated. And then you can go in, okay, cell loss and atrophy. And then you can go deeper. What are the most promising areas for cell loss and tissue atrophy for longevity? It spits you out a few ways to make progress. Here's one, for example, stem cell therapy. We can then follow stem cell therapy lower. What are the most promising approaches for solving that, and so forth. And then you you can also link companies in the tree and so forth. But this is just to say that I think ultimately the use will depend on the specific person wanting to use a specific part of the tree. And this tool now allows you to very quickly just ask questions and have auto-generated AI claims that answer these specific questions on parts of the tree. So you can really figure out how your specific skills are really interesting to that. For example, we're also linking, we built another tree that's very early stage just for individual main philanthropic organizations and stuff. It's all auto-generated, with the idea being that obviously this is not all correct. It's using ChatGPT and will be upgraded to ChatGPT 4 now. But the idea is now that rather than doing all the legwork yourself and researching all of this, you can then review it. Is this actually correct? Is there anything missing? And so we're saving a lot of kind of grunt work time by having this tree now auto-populated. We can play around with it later if you want to ask me a few questions and have AI answers generated to them, and then we can go down the chain. Talk to me. I'm very happy about this. It's early stage. We just started this like a few weeks ago. And so hopefully by the end of this year, we actually have different paths through the tree that are depending on different people that may want to use it. Okay, cool. Thank you, Aaron. Okay, wonderful. Well, this is all really to kind of like, I think, tell you just like the really incredible amount of work that's happening in the space, the incredible amount of companies that are working in this space now, and research organizations and so forth. And it's a good segue for now to kind of like take this, like compress it, and then I think now do the next step further. Like what is actually from here? Like let's say we have this like rough understanding, of at least what different actors are currently doing in longevity. I think progress is really occurring fast, but how can we now take it one step further? So this is a safe space for you guys to really kind of like get out there and work on the types of projects that you would otherwise not really have the time and the space and opportunity to collaborate on. Now, how are we going to do this today? I'm glad you asked. I will walk you through the agenda of today. It's very ambitious, but we've been doing it before and it works out usually. If you tumble out at the end of this process, usually people are like, they have at least red teamed a few new ideas and have a few new proposals for what to work on next. So today we will be launching with 3 rounds of lightning presentation. We'll be starting with Sonia in just a few minutes. Then we have Greg, Joe, Michael, Ben, and Marty in the first round. They will be 7 minutes. I'll be brutal at timekeeping. 3 minutes Q&A from you, so already think about what you want to ask them. And then at the end of that, we'll be writing out a question that kind of like that they would want to encourage you to answer from their talk on the board. We'll be doing the same spiel again after lunch. And then we have one more slot in which we do the same thing again. Why are we writing out questions? The questions are basically prompts for if you want to work on this specific area, what are the types of questions that, for example, a research proposal, a project proposal, maybe an early stage company would need to answer. So we'll be collecting a bunch of questions over here. And then we will have a working group formation where we'll be slimming them down into specific questions that most people here are excited about to work on. We'll be voting on the top 10. You'll then have some space and opportunity to work on them. And different people can have different roles in this. Some may want to be advising, some may want to do the grunt work, and so forth. And this is mostly, these 3 sets of lightning talks are there to kind of get your brain running. If you are not speaking but have an idea for a question that you think is totally not on there but really should be, just go on the whiteboard, mark that question down with your name, and then it will be part of the projects that will then later be considered for working group formation. Okay, great. So after we've done the working group formation, we'll have breakout drinks over here. I'll be doing a little fun breakout on longevity realpolitik, like let's talk